Hi, everybody. So, welcome to Security Tapes, episode 6 already. And today we've got some wonderful guests with us. We've got a focus really on people starting out in the security industry. So, we're going to be speaking with Martin, who's going to talk about what his organization, the Pathway Group, do and how they help people get into the industry. We're going to be looking to talk to Freddie, who is currently just starting out, completely fresh to the industry. He's going to tell us his story. And then we've got Daniel, who's going to be telling us quite a bit about his background. It's very interesting. Daniel's gone very far in security and then changed things as he's sort of moved over and started, in some respects, again into the IT community, and we'll find out more about that. So, with no further ado, I shall pass it over to our first guest for introductions, which is Martin from Pathway. Martin.
Thank you, Vin. Thank you for inviting yourself. So my name is Martin Chandler. I'm the Chief Enrichment Engagement Officer at Pathway Group. As an organisation, we aspire to change a life through skills and work, and that means a lot of things, really. Obviously, I know today we're specifically talking about cybersecurity. So as an organisation, we provide opportunities for individuals to either reskill or to skill into the likes of cybersecurity, where people don't necessarily know quite what to expect. When we think of cybersecurity, it sort of interlaces with IT, digital. They all sort of go hand in hand. So as an organisation, we work with individuals that are looking to move into cybersecurity or those sort of IT roles, providing with those skills, the understanding, and looking at what opportunities they could sort of undertake, really. And it's great to be here.
I'm Freddie. I am an aspiring cybersecurity analyst or engineer. I'm currently looking for work. However, I'm studying for my SET Plus, as well as taking a few other vendor-specific courses, just to try and build my experience so far. And as Martin said, it's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you, Freddie. And then Daniel, over to you.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the warm introduction. I'm Daniel Segale. I'm actually from Africa, Nigeria. So as we said earlier, I came over to the UK, and started over, to be able to make sure I get myself into the industry. I started as a data center administrator, and when I was done with my undergrad, I went for my first master's. Reason being because I wanted to expand my knowledge. I'm big on, getting knowledge, impartation and all, and then after that, I started getting interest into cybersecurity, where I started seeing things, how vulnerable organizations were, how vulnerable people were to threats. And then I was able to process my coming over to the UK, where I did my second master's in cybersecurity. And since then, it's been really fun. I enjoy cybersecurity. I enjoy every part of it. So this is me telling you, welcome to this interesting podcast. And I promise you're going to have, that information you want. Thank you.
Outstanding. Well, welcome, gents. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And the first thing we really like to ask everyone is really how you got into security and sort of your connection with it. I know, Martin, it's a little bit different for you because you're almost tangentially related to cybersecurity. You're involved in it, but it's also not your main everyday thing.
I say you say that. I say for me, IT, digital, cybersecurity, they all sort of interlacing, and now we're sort of bringing artificial intelligence into that mix. For me, IT, I was back when we had the AST 486 sort of computers, sort of building them, putting them together. It was very much my sort of interest and enthusiasm. From my point of view, I then sort of done a lot of software. So whether it was overclocking computers, I used to do back in the day, taking them apart, trying to make them that bit better, home experimenting with different software. So really, I've always had that interest within sort of, I would say, IT, but then it evolved into digital, and now obviously sort of cybersecurity. And the more that we've done as an organisation in cybersecurity, so just from a day to day, we have to be careful of what practices and things that we put in place in terms of implementing those cybersecurity. But then as we've evolved as an organisation, I think then cybersecurity has become more popular and more mainstream, more attractive, and that sort of everyday essential thing to do is that we as an organisation are sort of aligned to say, well, actually, we know there's a need there to support individuals, and that's worked quite well because of my 20 odd, probably even 30 years of, working within IT or with that sort of equipment, it sort of lends itself quite naturally to me. So 12 months ago, when I first met Vin at the cybersecurity show, or when we sort of connected through sort of a mutual organisation, that was where, we started sort of having conversations, and really what sort of Vin was educating us on at that point in terms of cybersecurity, artificial intelligence. For me, it was all exciting things because it was stuff that I probably wanted to be doing, but I wasn't necessarily, but it allowed me to sort of get back into that as an arena. So really, I've fallen into it by accident or my own sort of interests. But then at the same time, as an organisation, we knew that there was a requirement for sort of cybersecurity personnel out there, which is why, we took that initiative to support people to move into that as an industry, or to reskill and move into the industry as well.
Amazing. And what sort of mix would you say? Because it sounds like you work in a couple of different areas across, as you say, IT, digital. What would you say the percentage is now in terms of the amount of work you do with people getting into cybersecurity, and particularly the security side rather than traditional IT, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I would say it's everybody that's sort of coming through, and we do a number of different provisions for people to sort of move into. But I'd say, where people are saying, IT, digital, ultimately it is cybersecurity they're looking to go into. So it is a very high percentage where that people have got that attraction in there. I must say it is now moving over into artificial intelligence, but I think, again, those go hand in hand quite easily. And if you're in cybersecurity, you need to be aware and utilising artificial intelligence. And even if you're in artificial intelligence, you need to be aware of cybersecurity at the same time.
No, makes a lot of sense. And Freddie, you're going to have a very different perspective because you're quite fresh into the industry. You're getting certified. You're still sort of starting out in your journey. I think I had said you were on the apprenticeship side of things. Was that right? Or what was
so I did some work within IT support and cybersecurity as an ICT apprentice a few months ago. Since then, it's been like mostly certification-based stuff. Studying for Set Plus, as you said, but that wasn't really where I got into it all. I really got into it after my A levels. Well, actually, no, during my A levels. During my A levels, I kind of evaluated where I wanted to go in life. Just strange for a 17-year-old trying to think like that. Instead of wanting to go to the pub or those kind of things. Of course, we did those things, but you do have to sit down and have that conversation with yourself and really try and think. There are a few things that came to my mind late GCSEs and in my early life as well. Like, I never wanted to do cybersecurity. I never even heard of cybersecurity. I wanted to be a doctor one day and a soldier the next. But then, as I said, in A levels, sat down, had a conversation with myself, and someone I know put the numbers in front of me of people they were hiring for cybersecurity positions, and they were very high numbers in terms of salary. And I thought, okay, the numbers are there, let's go explore it. And I kind of clung on to the idea of the numbers very, very quickly. Having that high salary, that was very appealing to a 17-year-old. I didn't really think about the kind of process that goes in with that. But then I jumped on the Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate. It's like a course you can do. I want to say it's somewhat recognized. It's not like Security Plus recognized or anything like that, but it really does teach you the foundations. And the more I was finding myself learning that, going through the basics from the CIA triad up to AAA, everything from that, it just made me want to learn more and more. And then I started my Networking Plus. I only got halfway through my Networking Plus, but that's because I decided to switch over to a different pathway of my Sec Plus after my apprenticeship. But yeah, it was a very different beginning to Martin's big experience within IT. Mine was very, very much spare at the moment, and I just discovered I loved it when I started researching.
Dan, you're getting a little bit of background noise from you, Max, I think.
Yeah. For me, generally, because I've had a wider understanding of IT in general. Like I said, started as a data center administrator, went into web design, full-time stack developer at one point. Then into program analysis, and then I came over to the UK. The major reason I went into cybersecurity was because, as I said earlier, the state at which people can be very vulnerable. So I've witnessed people, falling into the hands of, let's say, it was scammers, as we say in cybersecurity, attackers, and also so. This alone made me look at my interest in cybersecurity. And then at the beginning of my journey, I was interested in everything. That point where you want to do everything. You see red teamers, you say, okay, I want to be this. You see blue teamers, guys doing penetration testing. You want to be that, you want to be this and everything. And then that got me in a space where I was a bit confused because I wanted to learn everything, which is what the mistake most people make today. Cybersecurity is broad, but as I say, you can be a master of all, so a jack of all trades, not the master of all. So what helped me was I was able to, niche down what I wanted to do. And that brought me to like security operations, cloud security, and that's been, where my interest has been. Also, as regards certification, I've done a few certifications, and I started with the ISC squad certified in cybersecurity, which is really good for people that want to come into the industry. It gives you a basic understanding of everything. I think it's about 5-6 domains, from threat analysis to governance, GRC, to security operations. So it just gives you a broad understanding of cybersecurity. So that helped me. Before I did some other few certifications, did the Sec Plus, So for me, it's been a really, really interesting journey. That's the reason I make sure at any point I'm giving, I try to educate people to let them know cybersecurity is not rocket science. You can do it. It begins from yourself. The moment you're able to set up your phone, your computer, you don't click on any link that comes to your email. You don't jump on any website. You're able to distinguish between what is, maybe a phishing link, for instance. You're already in cybersecurity. And also, I tell people, like, people don't want to get into cybersecurity. You don't need to be an IT guru. There are domains of cybersecurity like governance, risk, compliance that you can get into without being technical. So for me, I would say the whole journey has been really, really interesting. And what this has taught me is, you need to be updated. You need to keep learning, like I do. So there are new trends, like Martin said earlier, AI for security. You need to know these are what, these are the next. These are what's how do I put? I'm sorry, but these are products that is going to secure the next gen. So you need to keep yourself updated. You need to learn. The cybersecurity service is about learning. You need to be always learning. So I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Outstanding. Freddie, I think you wanted to jump in with something.
Yeah, just picking up on the kind of continuous learning that Daniel's on about and kind of the starting off trying to transition. I've begun to put myself into the environment now on LinkedIn and even TikTok, surprisingly, where there are these medias, there are these almost, we can call them spreadsheets full of information which is open to everyone. There are these gurus who are going on there who, you at times you kind of think, okay, I'll take their opinion and balance it. You never take anything on TikTok for verbatim or de facto. But there are all of these medias now. They will tell you exactly what position you want, what certifications go hand in hand with it. And you don't necessarily need all certifications, but it is kind of that suggested route. And I feel like that's really starting to pop up now more than ever on cybersecurity. And there is kind of the issue that we have now with drop shipping. Drop shipping did kind of explode and say, oh, everyone can do it, and now we're having that with cybersecurity. Everyone's saying, oh, now you can do cybersecurity, it's very easy, all you have to do is this. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, where people are saying it's easy and people who are actually giving you good information. But it's really good to see that media is available to everyone now.
Nice. And it's interesting you sort of gone down the certification route. And it seems to be something that I think a lot of people fixate on, for want of a better word, and I'm sure it makes things an absolute ton easier getting through that HR filter. And I think it'd be interesting to get Martin's view on it, particularly as I'm sure you've helped lots and lots of people through it. But for you, Freddie, what's your experience been sort of going through the apprenticeships? Do you feel like the certifications have helped? Do you feel like you need a bit more? Do you feel like they're being well received by hiring managers and things like that?
I unfortunately left my apprenticeship early, so I didn't get the certification, although it was an ICT certification. The actual valuable experience I got from that was within IT support and cybersecurity. I was in both teams. So that certification hasn't really played well because I don't have it. But the things that have necessarily played well, and that although I am looking for work now, hiring managers do seem to appreciate, is the foundational knowledge that you can demonstrate. Even though I've only got a limited amount of experience, being able to link that back to certain concepts within the certifications, and the ability to push yourself to keep going for the certifications while not being in work. That has definitely been received well, I will say that.
Gotcha. And I guess in terms of what you were doing in the apprenticeship, do you feel like that's been a positive help, and people have been positive about saying, you've been involved in that, you've had some time on the ground, you've not just been studying. Has that been well received?
Absolutely. It was very hands-on. I've got a quite full grasp of Visual Active Directory from the IT support side, and onboarding, offboarding, every kind of process that you could think of, laptop building, hardware support. So it was really hands-on in terms of both IT support and then the cybersecurity side, performing investigations, policies, trying to create policies, limiting the noise created from alerts, everything down to audits and Sentinel, retrieving stuff from cold storage for audits. It's really been helpful.
Outstanding. Daniel, I think you wanted to jump in, and then Martin's going to jump in straight after.
Yes, just building on what Freddie said. I think another thing most that I feel could be of help is building on skills. Certifications are there, but can you apply these skills in the real world? And that is why we've got platforms like Hack the Box. We've got different sandboxes. So what I advise most people, like I've been in a mentorship position where I've been able to help people get into cybersecurity. I've been able to help a few people that were in IT get into cybersecurity as well. So what I do tell them is this: you need to build your skills. As long as certification helps, getting your skills is better, in the sense that you can build a lab at home, install Kali Linux, get a lot of things to play with, install Plonk, where you can, read logs, upload raw logs, and, read them, understand these things. So when you're doing the certifications, it's like you're having both sides, like you're having the full grasp of what you want to be. So for me, as well as certification is important, I feel having the skills, having the hands-on skills, if peradventure you get, let's say, a job interview where you're asked to solve some, situation, you're given logs to read, you're given Sentinel, for instance, and say, okay, go on SIEM and, get what's happening on here, alerts and incidents and all. The certification won't give you that. It's the skills you build, the hands-on skills you've gotten from trying out labs, and that's what's going to help you. And also there are other platforms like on Microsoft now. What I do, I join virtual training days. They do like 2 virtual training days for a certain certification. And at the end of the training, you're given 50% off discount to try on the exam. So that's another way you can use this. You have access to to knowledge, and all they've got sandboxes where you can try out things, So for me, I would say as long as you're building your certification, portfolio, you should also be getting skills and some skills. Yeah.
Absolutely. Martin, I think you had
Yeah,
something to contribute
yeah.
on the cert front.
Definitely, I've got a bit in there. I know we've got some set questions to go through, but I must say, just jump in, Freddie. I think it's great that you sort of considered that apprenticeship route in the first instance. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for you on that occasion, but I'm a sort of self-proclaimed sort of advocate for apprenticeships. I think it's a great way for people to sort of move into that industry, into that career route, earn a wage, gain access to the experience, and also some of those sort of qualifications. But for me, there aren't enough apprenticeships around for people to sort of take advantage of in that way, in terms of there's, the last time I checked, there was well over 800 different types of apprenticeships, but it's the employers that need to consider, is this vacancy here in cybersecurity or IT support, whichever where they've got to start off, is it one that an apprentice could come in and do? And the thing is, you're getting with an apprentice, you're getting, that opportunity to mold that person to how you want them to be. I know a lot of people will sort of have that misaligned sort of viewpoint with the apprenticeship. But it's just for young people. It's for anybody and everybody as they want to sort of go through, whether they're looking to reskill in a career and sort of develop those skills and sort of progress on. It's certainly there, and Freddie's obviously took that route in the initial instance. And again, I'll congratulate him on that. But it is what I find. There's a lot of large employers that will do these apprenticeship opportunities, and unfortunately, with how big these companies are, the amount of applications have straight away, it is a matter of having more SME organisations that, deal with cybersecurity, have IT opportunities within them, of thinking, yeah, okay, can we turn this sort of full-time job role into an apprenticeship and really, build our next generation workforce, being that key part. And I think where we talk about some of the accreditations, for me, I've experienced a number of barriers with individuals who are working to. So, they're fully motivated and engaged to get into cybersecurity, but then sometimes the barrier they have is, they don't have this Security Plus qualification, they don't have X number of years worth of experience. But if they're not being given the opportunities, and especially with a lot of these being entry roles into the industry, they don't have those avenues and opportunities, where I think a lot of employers will look at the certificates and be that checkbox to say, okay, they've got that knowledge because they know they've been through essentially an accredited program to achieve that examination result and sort of move through, which I fully appreciate and can understand as well. But at the same time, I've probably got a lot of that knowledge there. I haven't been through that program, but I've sort of learned it myself by doing things on a day-to-day basis, and could probably find, I could go in and do that job role that they're asking people to do. And I know that with the conversations I have with my individuals as well. So I know we're going to go into more questions, so I'll leave it there for the moment anyway.
Outstanding. And I think, just echoing really what everyone said, I've been a hiring manager for many years now, and certainly apprentices have been some of the more impressive candidates I've seen, just in terms of breadth of knowledge, the amount of experience they've had. And it's interesting hearing about the certification side of things, because I think the training industry has really sprung up around cybersecurity, and quite often you can pile down that rabbit hole, but you can be lacking that real world experience. You can be lacking the job experience. And what Daniel was saying about building those labs, building those competencies, building those core skills is almost the more important thing. And when people come to me and I say, how do you get into testing? How do you get into red teaming? How do you get into security? The big message is always, absolutely, some places are going to want to see, they're going to want to see certs, they're going to want to see degrees. Daniel Miesler many years ago said something along the lines of, all this stuff is about as important as everyone thinks it is. If they say you need it, that's what that particular job wants. But when you're applying to places, I think to think in terms of core competencies, core disciplines, what problem are you solving for that company, rather than going through checkboxes, collecting certs, so you've got alphabet soup on your CV is not always the way to go, and you've got to make sure you have the other side of the coin. Then I know you wanted to jump in with something.
Yeah, just really to say it's really interesting to hear everybody's different perspective, and I think one thing I'll definitely share as somebody who did set up a SME with two friends, and we did grow it to quite a large organisation. At a time when cybersecurity people were even harder to come across because we were a new industry. One thing that struck me were the people who were really into it had networks at home. And it was just funny when Daniel's saying you can go to these sandbox places online and obviously use obviously Act the Box and Acme I've come across before, but not everybody might have done. And certainly the guys who were really into it, they had things like Splunk, they had their own network set up, and they stood out like a sore thumb from the guys who said, "Oh, I've been to university and done a computing degree," for example. And the other thing that, as a SME, that sort of jumps out was that um, we tried all sorts of ways of getting government grants, and it were like wading through mud. And we ended up just being completely self-funded because we could never find any direction. And I suppose the question for you, Martin, would be: I know there's loads of SMEs out there and bigger than SMEs out there that potentially don't employ apprentices from what you've said. And part of the reason for that is they might just not thought of doing it because no one's told them to do it. Are they the kind of people you like to talk to, or are they the kind of people, even if you don't, you would be able to offer advice to on what to do next?
Certainly, I'm always happy to speak to anybody, whether it's from they're trying to get into the industry or it's the industry wanting to find out, well, how do they get more involved in these sort of schemes? It can be quite tricky. The government always bring in sort of new ideas and new initiatives, and it can sometimes complicate it. Sometimes people have that sort of skepticism when it comes to apprenticeships, thinking, oh, hang on, when I left school, it was a YTS program and you had to go through and do this, that, and the other. And sometimes it's just a matter of having a conversation, understanding what's out there. From my point of view, what I try to do is to remove the different programs that are available, because I think that's where it gets complicated. Even when you speak to an individual that's thinking, well, this is what I want to do, for us, it's to give that right advice and information. When it comes to, grants or funding, however it may well be, is to explain, okay, well, we're trying to get into this industry. This is the vehicle that we're going to use. You don't need to worry about the technical detail, but this is who we're going to be able to introduce you to and support you with, really. And as I say, that works from sort of that learner point of view, but then also from the industry point of view as well.
Superb. And then really, I just wanted to sort of come back to Freddie as well, because again, I'm getting old now, and even though I've got a song on TikTok, it's not really an environment for me. And it were, funnily enough, one of my old friends yesterday was saying that he uses Instagram as a channel to push out things about security, which is good. But I never thought TikTok. But then I realised when Freddie started talking about the way TikTok might do it, guess how you could earn money doing this sort of thing. And what were like kind of music to me is, Freddie, were when you said, at first, that's what attracted you. And there's nothing wrong with earning money in life. That's what it's good to be successful. But what I really liked hearing was, but then when you started doing it, then you were kind of hooked. And I suppose my question to you would be, now you've heard from, especially Daniel talking about the sort of sandbox stuff and using the tools, is that going to change what you do next? Is that something you've already done, or do you think you'll do more of it? How's it changed your opinion on what you've heard, I guess?
Absolutely, what Daniel said will have an impact. But I mean, for me, it's strange because I always saw myself as blue team. I say always saw myself. I've kind of developed the opinion that I want to go into blue team. I prefer the kind of the strategy side, the defense side, rather than the attacking side. I'm not too good when it comes to trying to break in or pen testing or anything like that. I have actually started the sandboxing side of pen testing, and it just doesn't click as much for me as the kind of tactical strategic side does, the defensive side does. I have begun my vendor specific certifications. So those are the ones that give you the sandboxes and those kind of things, be it Splunk, be it Cisco, Packet Tracer. Packet Tracer was a weird one, but it really made me enjoy networking again. I told you I kind of stopped that networking certificate, the Net Plus, kind of stopped that halfway through because I kind of hit that mental roadblock. But then I opened up Packet Tracer. They give you a really good tutorial on how to kind of begin things, and it walks you through it. It doesn't tell you to do things. It walks you through, you need to do this, you need to do this, and it shows you how you can create these networks. And I do want to take that one step further and begin working with firewalls. And I have began to kind of weigh up whether I want to do the Palo Alto firewall kind of sandbox, but their course next.
And I think that's the great thing with the certs, the various labs you can get into and I think particularly when you're talking about doing the vendor certs, Cisco, Palo Alto, there's loads of expensive kits associated with it. And back in the day, you might have had to get a stack of physical switches to be able to actually get hands on and play with this stuff. So I think it's so important to be able to access that stuff if you're a student. You don't have tons of disposable income to get this done and skill yourself up. No, that's awesome. Daniel, I think you were gonna jump in.
Yeah, just quick one. So for me, I would say like the platforms I mentioned earlier, let's take let's say Hack the Boss, for instance. If you won't go into defense, it gives you a channel. So it's like a road path or roadmap. That's what I'm gonna call it. So road path. So if you want to go into, let's say, defense security operations, it gives you a road path. So it gives you what you should, like a guide, towards what you want to achieve. So I think it's something, if you lay your hands on, you really like it. Hack the Boss, Trethtec, they're really good platforms, for not just for red team, as I said earlier, even for blue team, as defense, and also it just gives you that part where you can, when you follow it from the beginning. And another interesting thing is it gives you challenges. So you get to a point and then you ask questions. It gives you labs. It gives you things to do. It gives you issues. To fix. So I'll recommend one of these platforms. So if you can get your hands on it, I'm sure it's really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, building on from the Hack the Box, I think it's really important, as Daniel was saying, not only to kind of explore the pathway, but to at least try the red team side, at least start to learn it. It builds on that kind of security first mindset within defense. I haven't had much experience with ongoing vulnerabilities and attacks, but I mean it's drilled into time and time again. Build that security first standpoint and Hack the Box, learning how these processes can be used to find vulnerabilities and attacks. That's kind of what's been drilled into you. So I think it would be incredible for me to keep going down that Hack the Box route, just to keep that security first mindset while defending.
Absolutely. And when you're operating, doing the job, whether you find yourself on the red team or the blue team, the ability to cross-train different areas of security, different disciplines, just gives you so much. I feel like some of the best pen testers that I've worked with have been people who've worked in a blue team environment. Some of the best have been ones who've done auditing, they've done GRC, they've done consulting, they understand the policy side of things. And I think cross-pollinating your skill set can be really, really helpful. There's a lot to be said for being specialized, but cross-training is absolutely gold. And I think it's going to make you very valuable to any organization you happen to go to. So moving along, I wanted to talk to you about advice that you would give to hiring managers, really. So to people who are building teams, maybe pulling on junior people onto their teams. Much has been made of entry level in cybersecurity and what that means and what that looks like, and particularly when pen testing, whether there's such a thing as entry level roles. Martin, I don't know if you could speak to that in terms of speaking directly to hiring managers and advice for them if they're building their teams.
I mean, part of my role, I have been working with, within the industry. So speaking to employers, those people that are doing the hiring, and I mean, where you speak to them, they do come across as very genuine and obviously very knowledgeable people. And obviously where I'm in a position that I'm not as knowledgeable as them, it's that high level of sort of talking, but it's good conversations that sort of take place in there. For me, I think it is looking at sort of the accreditation side of things. I mean, when I talk to sort of a learner point of view, 10 years ago, employers would spend 10 seconds looking over your CV. If it doesn't grab their attention, they'll put it off the pile, they'll move on to the next one. Then 5 years ago, I would have been saying they would spend 5 seconds looking over your CV. Now it's the fact of AI will look over your CV before that hiring manager will go through it. And that's just sort of part of the processes now. The larger job boards are sort of going through them. But I'd always say is, don't just put that automation in place to sort of take people out if they don't meet X, Y, and Z. It is having those sort of conversations, because it's when you actually speak to the individuals, you find that bit of paper that they've put forward actually isn't sending them in the best possible light. I mean, within my role, I've looked over probably well over 100 CVs in the last sort of few weeks, and they don't sell these people in the best possible light. So it's giving that advice and support to them. And I suppose really the call to the advice manager is for those hiring managers is, give that bit of consideration, give people those sort of opportunities to to come in, whether it's an assessment centre they go through or like that sit down interview, but that opportunity to present them to sort of go forward. So unfortunately my would be quite limited in terms of my advice to them anyway, but that would be my sort of 2 cents worth anyway.
Perfect. And I feel like I'd be remiss, because you see so many CVs, you see so many candidates. What are the biggest mistakes and the biggest things that people can do for themselves in terms of how they present their CVs and how they present themselves to get the best chance of getting an interview?
Yeah, I suppose people always go to the length of it. It doesn't matter if it is 3 pages. It hasn't got to be put down onto 2 pages for it. It is just making sure that you're tailoring to it. We're in a point now where I've mentioned it a fair few times already, but that is what is screening the majority of the CVs. It is using that sort of technology yourselves, but taking a look at the job description. What are the skills that they're looking for? What are the experience? Tailor each of those applications that you do. Yes, it's more sort of intensive and laborious to go through, but it's what employers are looking for nowadays. They're looking for you to personalise that. So I think that the key thing for me is those people that are applying for the opportunities, tailor that CV. It isn't a matter of now, okay, I've got a CV for cybersecurity and I can put it in there for all these different job roles. You've got to tailor it to each one of them, because all these different job roles, or all the job roles, are very different in many ways nowadays.
Absolutely. I think one of the big things that I think about in terms of what people can do for their CVs is having that strong statement about who you are and what you do at the top, because some of these hiring managers see so many CVs, they get so many applications. It is such a busy marketplace. It's very competitive, and what you were saying about tailoring the CVs, I think it can be really helpful for applicants to have a look at the spec, and as you say, think, what problem are you solving for that hiring manager? They've got a space they need to fill. They've got a problem in their company that requires a person-shaped hole to fix. What can you do for them? And make sure you've got all that salient info there. You're not getting too bogged down in buzzwords. How many years are you qualified? If not, what do you bring? Do you have network experience? Are you interested in the red side? Are you interested in the blue side? Give them a real flavour of where they're going to put you and what you can do for them. And I think that makes it a much easier thing.
And I think that's some great advice. I'm probably going to take that myself and start passing that on to individuals as well, Adam. Thank you. Very useful.
No, pleasure. And Daniel, I've been dying to ask you a question, because you've got a very different background in that you were working in a pretty involved role out in Nigeria before shifting over to the UK. And I'm particularly interested because I get lots of people approaching me from all over the world, and they're wanting to come and work in Europe, in the UK, asking how they can make that switch over and get a role here. I'm really interested to hear what your advice and your experience would be in making that jump.
Okay, thank you, Adam. For me, firstly, is the willpower, the motivation. So there need to be a fire inside you, that wants you to, I'm going for this position, and the fire pushes you to go for it. Also, my journey, I would say because of I had a bit of the knowledge of IT itself, not just cybersecurity, so different aspects of IT. It was a bit easier for me getting into, let's say, the industry. Like I said, when I came into the country, did my master's in cybersecurity, it wasn't a bit of a struggle, because like when we had courses that got to do with, like, let's say, scripting, for instance. I was already coding, I was already building applications, so the knowledge helped me. Other aspect, I was talking about security, encryption, and all. I already had a job as a data center administrator. So because of that, I'll say the experience I had in this different aspect of IT, it was easier for me. But to other people trying to get into these positions, like from Africa, from Nigeria, Ghana, or the countries, I would say you give yourself the push. Now the internet is free. You can get whatever you want from the internet. I tell people, make use of AI. AI can be your best friend if you know how to make use of it. You don't just use AI for petty things. You can ask really deep knowledge from AI. They can be a road path. For instance, ChatGPT can give you a road path on the courses to study, on the certifications to do, on labs you can build, how to build these labs. Like, where I was, we were trying to build a network. I realized they didn't have segmented network for the IP cameras. They wanted to do all of that. Just putting it into ChatGPT, for instance, it broke it down. You can the kind of switch you should buy, how to create your VLAN, how to connect your router, how to integrate these and integrate that, integrate the IP cameras into the VLAN, how to segment your network, how to create guest network. So AI is there as your friend. So the earlier you start getting used to using it, the better for you. Also, be open to criticism. Um, what I've understood over these years is we don't like being criticized. When you don't like being criticized, you can advance. I like it when I'm doing something, and like, let's say I play the keyboard and the bass guitar, and I'm playing, and somebody comes to me and say, this is you're not hitting the right notes. How you're not hitting the right, playing the right thing the way you want it to be. You go back, you reflect, listen to yourself, see how you can improve yourself. That alone is going to put you out. And also, I know there might be different challenges, especially from, trying to apply from Africa, with, let's say, visa restrictions and a whole lot of things. But I would say the fire in you should be your motivation. When you want to be pushed, or when you want to push yourself, you try to put yourself out there. Use LinkedIn, use different social media as well, to put yourself out there, and then it's going to be quite easy. I hope this helps. I know it might be a bit difficult because there are different, like I would say for the UK, for instance, different visa changes every day, different things going on. But I'll keep saying it. People do it. If people do it, then you can do it. I have friends in Nigeria who work in the US. They work for companies in the US, and in Nigeria, they don't even want to go out, because they feel that's the right thing for them. So as long as people do it, then if you want to achieve it, you can. But you just need to make sure you have the will, you have the motivation to keep driving to. And also, before I mute my mic, I was going to speak on the recruiters, for HR, what I feel they can improve on. Like, several times I've seen different job titles with different job description. I don't know if the description was written with ChatGPT, for instance, but you see different jobs out there. The title differs from the job description. So I think this is something they can improve on. Work with, let's say, the head of cybersecurity, for instance. If you're hiring for like a SecOps role, then work with the CISO, for instance. Okay, what do you want? The title needs to match with the job description, so you can avoid confusion. Also, the challenge most entry level people face there is entry-level roles are asking for 3 years of experience, 3 years of experience, 4 years of experience with 4 certifications, with CISSP, and it becomes really, really challenging. So I think if these hiring managers, take it down a little, slow down a little, and then give people the opportunity they want. Trust me, like you see guys doing apprenticeship, and when you give them the opportunity, you won't believe what they can do. But when these roles are there asking for 3 years of experience, for different certifications, you are losing them. So, yeah, so that's it for me. Thank you.
Brilliant, Daniel. I think just to pick up on 2 points in there, and I really strongly agree on this with you in terms of AI being your friend. I'm sort of again a big sort of advocate for AI. I think if you're not using it in any sort of job role or capacity, or even from job searching, other people are, you're sort of further behind on that. I mean, I had one of these sort of epiphany moments with it a few weeks ago. 2 years or near enough 2 years I've sort of been using it, and I tell you what, it's quite worrying how well AI knows you better than yourself. So I went in and asked some quite aspirational questions about what do you know about me that I don't know about myself, and I tell you what, it's what other people have been telling me that I focus on, and hence why one reason why I'm here today is to sort of push myself out there. It's in sort of knowing that, again, if you're not using it, other people are. So in whatever capacity that you can, it is sort of, sense checking, some information, even using it for learning as well. And I encourage our learners to be aware of it, what the powers are, what it can do, but not to be fully reliant on it. It will do a lot of the heavy lifting. So 90% of the work it can do, you then need to have that human element in there as well. You also mentioned about pushing yourself out there on social media. LinkedIn for me is such a powerful tool to use. Now, I've been using it probably for the best part of 10 years. And before, I was probably on LinkedIn because I was told to be on LinkedIn. But actually, there's so much that you can sort of use to leverage your own sort of contacts, your network. I think you even mentioned about sort of keeping up to date with information. Everybody puts things on there in terms of that content. It's to share that information. Ultimately, people are looking for reactions. They're looking for those comments on there, but it is sharing that information, and it's such a key part to sort of go in and have access to it, really. So I'll be quiet on that one now anyway. Thank you.
No, great points on the AI side of things, and we certainly leverage it heavily at Trethtec. All I would say on that side is you do need to take it with several handfuls of salt sometimes, especially when you're, I use it extensively for doing things like building labs and prototyping code. It's certainly nothing I'd want to push to production. I wouldn't be happy that it wasn't going to burst into flames, but do make sure that you're sanity checking what it's telling you. Do make sure you're being pragmatic about what you pull out of AI. But absolutely, it's such a powerful tool, and you'd be daft not to use it. And Vin, I think you were going to jump in with something.
Yeah, I suppose really I wanted to wrap sort of two questions into one. And what's very important for me and for Adam as well is that this experience is good for you guys. And I think what I'd like to know is, and if we can keep this nice and concise as well and punchy, what is it you want from this podcast? And it kind of ties in nicely to another question, which what are your sort of short, medium, and long-term goals? And they're going to be different for each years for different reasons. So, I think if we could start with you, Freddie, it'd be really, it's been really good to listen to you speak today. We're not currently hiring, but I've hired loads of people in the past, and depending on the role, if you were sat in front of me, there's so much about you that impresses me. It's frightening, and I think it'd be good if you can very concisely just tell people what is it you want from this podcast, and what do you want to achieve, short, medium, and long term.
Cheers, Vin. That's really nice of you to say. Honestly, from this podcast, more information. Daniel and Martin have had such incredible opinions on the growth aspect of cybersecurity, which is great. But I also wanted to put my name out there and show that I do have decent competency. I can keep up with people who have more experience than me, because I am, as you know, looking for a job, be it in IT support or as a junior analyst role. And then that kind of builds into that short and medium term goals that you were on about. Definitely in the short term, I'm looking for, maybe 1 or 2 years IT support or junior analyst, then into a analyst or engineer position. That's kind of my 5-year mark. 5-year mark, I want to be a cybersecurity analyst or slash engineer. But then definitely my mark from there, my long-term goal would to go for CISO. I absolutely love the continuous learning cycle, and I want to just punch and achieve and keep going.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. And Daniel, same question to you, sir, or questions?
Yeah, thank you for that. For me, first, my goal for this podcast is to put information out there. So for whoever is listening that has challenges with getting into the industry, I want you to know that if I could do it, you can do it. If just open up yourself to learning, and also I think for me, I'm not big on speaking. I told Vin at the beginning of our conversation, I'm not a big speaker. I was in a position before where my boss told me that, Daniel, you're intelligent, but because you don't speak, people won't know you're intelligent. So that has stuck with me, and I'm putting myself out there to be able to speak. So right now I'm learning, how to keep conversation, how to open my mind to learn, how to speak up. Also, of course, networking, which is I'm very big on. I want to network, meet professionals, meeting people like Vin, Adam, Freddie, and Martin alone. It's just very, very, it has been a very big, thing for me. So these are part of the things I want to get from the podcast. And then speaking of my medium and long-term goals, at the moment, I'm trying to build on my cloud security expertise. I'm just trying to keep on learning, trying to build up my skills. I'm very, very career focused. I want to go to the top, so I want to be there. I'm trying to build on skills, trying to build on knowledge, trying to expand my understanding to things. And on the long run, looking to be a chief information security officer, and then later on going to the the business side, where you get to educate people, bring out solutions for organizations, secure, just go out secure, being able to secure organization. And I think, yeah, that's it for me.
Brilliant, Daniel. And
Thank you.
me and Adam had the benefit of talking to you at greater length, and it were just amazing what you've achieved already, and your passion and your drive, it just comes through, and it's great to see what you're doing and what you've already done, and the fact you're mentoring other people in security says it all for me. It's brilliant. And finally, we go to my old friend Martin, who I've known for a long time. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, same question, Martin. What do you need from this? What would you like from this, and what are your short, medium, long termers?
Yeah, I suppose for me, mine are sort of both rolled in one, in terms of I'm in a position where I'm trying to connect with more of the industry. So speaking with yourselves, listening to Daniel and Freddie, and also Adam's sort of contribution about it, sort of heightens my understanding of cybersecurity, what the expectation out is in the industry as well. And there's lots of things I'll take away that I can share with our learners, and also the supporting team as well. So there's lots of sort of useful information. So that's one for me in terms of getting that access to cybersecurity talent that's already out in the industry and their insights. It is then to connect with other individuals that are in cybersecurity, whether they're hiring at the moment or they're open for a conversation. We have a constant flow of individuals that are interested in cybersecurity, and in many cases we're looking to signpost them to organisations or the like-minded training organisations as well. So it's really to highlight all that. And it's always useful to have that extra exposure out there for myself to sort of say, yeah, cybersecurity is something that we want to be known for as an organisation, but also myself. And when people then do have a conversation, okay, he does know a bit about what he's talking about, and it sort of ties all in quite nicely, really. But from my point of view, I just want to say thank you for the invitation, Adam. It's been great. I know we've had a couple of conversations in the past as well, and I'm just very thankful that you've considered me to sort of come on and sort of share insights and thoughts as well.
Martin, Daniel, Freddie, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for giving so much of your time and your knowledge. And really just closing thoughts now. cybersecurity, security is such an exciting industry to be a part of. It is super competitive, of course it is. Everyone wants to get into it. It is tremendously exciting, and I think I would say, if you've got the interest, believe you can do it. As Daniel said, you have that willpower, you have that drive. Absolutely embrace it and get after it, and I'm sure you will be successful. I think the only thing I would say is to be kind to yourself. Don't measure yourself against everything you see on social media. Try and chase after all the certs. There are only so many hours in the day. Focus on your skills, focus on your core competencies, and focus on what matters. Do one thing at a time. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole, and try and maintain your sanity. Gents, thank you so much. Vin, take us out.
Yeah, and thank you for that nice close, Adam. Yeah, just say thanks again, guys, for having you. It's been really good. I'm sure we'll see each of you again, and it'd be great to see how everything goes for you, Freddie and Daniel and Martin. Obviously, we've already talked that we're going to have. There's a lot more you've got to tell us about Pathway Group. So we'll definitely see you all again, guys. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us on Security Talks, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.